And our unmanned aerial vehicles have shown a steady deployment of heavy weapons. On just one day around Komsomolsk, our UAVs saw 9 main battle tanks, 4 armored tracked vehicles, 28 armored personnel carriers, and 60 military type trucks. We also see that both sides continue to engage in military training, sometimes very close to the contact line. We of course have been trying to encourage the sides to withdraw these heavy weapons, in particular those under 100 millimeter in caliber. Yesterday, for instance, I was just returning from Minsk, where I was attending the 5th round of talks in the working group on security issues within the trilateral contact group. As you know, the SMM coordinates the work of the security working group. It was a constructive meeting, and we hope that concrete agreements will be reached at the next meeting, now scheduled to take place on the 21st of July. Last week, I traveled to the east of the country. On Saturday, I and other SMM monitors went to Shirokine, where we once again confirmed that all civilians have left the village. We also saw massive destructions, especially in the southern part of the village. Up to 80% of the civilian houses there and infrastructure are damaged, often beyond repair. The entire area of the village is polluted with unexploded ordnances. We did not observe any DPR presence in the village. As you know, in April this year, the SMM suggested and offered help the sides to disengage from this village. At that time, civilians were still living there, and the destruction was not as massive as it is now. If the sides had agreed on a plan for de-escalation then, as well as honoring their Minsk obligations and building of confidence, much of what subsequently happened could have been avoided. I hope similar developments elsewhere can be prevented. The DPR pullout from Shirokine, while welcome, is not without danger. The DPR has already established new defensive positions on the road to DPR-controlled Zakhanka, exposing people from this village and the neighboring government-controlled villages of Berdiansk and Sopine to shelling. The SMM has indeed noted continued shelling in that area. Now residents of other villages might face what those in Shirokine had to endure for many months. During my visit, the SMM facilitated a local ceasefire and continues to do so on a daily basis to allow the demining and repair work of a major water pipeline between government-controlled Mayorsk and DPR-controlled Khorlivka. This water pipeline has been damaged by shelling back in December last year. The demining of the first 500-meter stretch of this pipeline has been completed and repair works have begun. We see this as an example of how the sides can engage constructively. one that allows us to hope that wider engagement is possible. In this particular instance, it is especially important as up to 2.5 million people in the Donetsk region, including Mariupol, could have been impacted if the work would not have been carried out. I also visited Stanica Luhanska and Shastia in the Luhansk region, and was in particular assessing the situation at the bridges over the Sieviersky Donetsk River. In Stanica Luhanska, we saw 12 civilians, mostly women and children, waiting to be let through the Ukrainian armed force checkpoint. People come here every day, some for over a week, hoping to be let through at some point. They have no other option other than traveling through the Russian Federation, which for many is too expensive to undertake as a travel. I would like to point out here that these bridges in the Luhansk region belong to the people that live there. The bridges should be returned to them. The situation there is tearing families apart and disrupting lives. It is also ruining livelihoods. Such disruption was all too evident elsewhere on the contact line. The SMM continued to observe long queues at various checkpoints as people sought to enter or exit non-government controlled area. On 4th of July, we saw a kilometer-long line of 211 vehicles waiting to cross into DPR at the Ukrainian Armed Forces checkpoint in Zaitsevo, and approximately 200 vehicles on the other side. Many people need to go to government-controlled areas to maintain family contacts, to buy basic food and medicine, and to receive their pensions. The latter point is in particular important given the difficulties those in control in the non-government controlled areas have in providing the basic material needs of the population. How violence threatens the socio-economic well-being of the population was made evident to me during my visit to the power plant in Shastia. This power plant supplies the entire Luhansk region, both government and LPR-controlled sites, and parts of the Kharkiv region with energy. We, however, observed recent damage at the plant caused by shelling. Control rather than utility seems to matter more to some people. Wider economic dislocation has also been evident to us during the week. At the coal mine near LPR-controlled Bilorichenski, for example, production has been cut and 400 to 500 workers haven't received salaries for over a year. Several transport links and checkpoint controls make it near impossible to source supplies and access markets. Market access is a recurring problem for those in the agriculture sector too, especially as the contact line, roughly speaking, cuts off food-producing areas from more urbanized areas. On the ground, farmers also face the risk of unexploded ordnances and mines when working on their land. And as usual now, at the end of my briefing, I would like to update you on the numbers in our mission. With new monitors having joined us this week, we now have 504 international monitors deployed across Ukraine. Together with other international staff, plus 234 Ukrainian colleagues, we have now 800 staff in total. Thank you for your attention, and I'm available to any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander. Чи є запитання або уточнення? Then we will Crisis Media Center. Do you plan any special activities for July 17th for the MH17 crash?
The OSCE monitoring mission will continue its monitoring activity in the area. We, of course, will ensure that due respect is paid to this one-year commemoration. And we remain available to those who require access to the crash area or any other area in areas not controlled by the government.
Thank you very much. We have a question in Ukrainian. You can take the translator from the second shelf there, from the second shelf.
Can you hear me? Just a specification. Can you hear me? This is about the machinery near Komsomolsk and the unmanned aerial vehicles. Could you please repeat to which exact day this data belong? When it happened, your observations near Komsomolsk?
The observation was made in the course of this reporting week. My office will provide you with the exact date. I don't have this with me now.
Thank you. Чи є ще запитання? Are there any more questions? Так, прошу.
Fifth channel. Зачекайте. What will be your further destination for the OSCE mission?
Mission's mandate is extended until March 2016. We will continue to recruit new monitors to the mission. However, we will expand only very limited, as at the moment we have restricted access to the areas not controlled by the government. We will attempt to substitute the lack of access on the ground with new technology, and we will continue to deploy our unmanned aerial vehicles in the area where we have difficult access. Okay. Thank you. The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission will attempt to facilitate local ceasefires at other hotspots along the contact line. And we see in particular the need to open up some of the blocked passages from government-controlled into non-government-controlled areas, such as the bridge in Stanica Luhanska, where passage is needed for the individuals that are now being divided by this bridge that is damaged in part and is blocked on both sides and is often affected by night and early morning shelling.
Thank you very much. Next question.
ForeignPolicy.com. You mentioned that you are hoping for a concrete agreement in 2 weeks' time. Could you tell us anything about the possible elements and outlines of such an agreement within Minsk working group? Thank you.
Thank you. There is one specific agreement that is very important to further de-escalate the situation along the contact line. As you know, the Minsk agreements do not foresee the withdrawal of tanks and smaller caliber weapons. The sides have now, over a couple of weeks already, discussed a plan to withdraw tanks and weapons smaller than 120 or 100 millimeter in diameter from the contact line. One is very close to an agreement in this plan. And we hope that the sides find ways to overcome the remaining differences so that this document can be adopted at the next session on the 21st of July. But as you know, what is more important is that the sides not only adopt the document, but also then implement this on the ground. I would like to reiterate that the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission was not able, as of now, to issue certificates of verification of the withdrawal of heavy weapons as foreseen in the Minsk arrangements.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Чи є ще запитання або уточнення? Yeah, one more, please.
Aleid Steeman, NOS, Netherlands. As far as I know, the help convoys from Russia still continue. Does the OSCE observe them? And if yes, do you have the possibility to look, not only to count the trucks, but also to have a look inside when they come in and out?
The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission has a mandate that covers all territory of Ukraine. The OSCE has a separate field operation on the territory of the Russian Federation at 2 border crossings there. And these border crossings are namely Kukovo and Donetsk on the Russian Federation side. But this observation mission there is a different mission than this mission here in Ukraine. The mission on the border post reports frequently about the arrival of these convoys and the passage of these convoys through the international border between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. But as the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission, that mission also has no mandate and therefore no right to conduct inspections of the load of these convoys. However, the OSCE mission here in Ukraine was present and has seen these convoys traveling through the eastern part of the country. And it also has seen some of these trucks being unloaded in the eastern part of Ukraine, and has reported the findings of the movements and of this monitored and observed unloading publicly in our daily reports.
Thank you very much. We can have one more question if it's really short, okay?
Gesine Dornblit from German Radio. Do you have information about who is preventing international humanitarian aid from entering the LNR and DNR?
At the moment, the crossing of cargo between government-controlled areas and non-government controlled areas is regulated by special legislation that the government of Ukraine has been adopting. And we have seen that sometimes it takes hours until humanitarian cargo can pass. But we have seen that it is possible to pass these checkpoints if the appropriate border documents, if the appropriate passing permits have been issued to these agencies.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Чи є ще запитання або уточнення? Якщо немає, то дуже дякую.
Since there are no further questions, thank you very much. In some 2 minutes, we will start our other briefing.